Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
I'm really excited, by the way. The series that we're going to have access to really began in 1993. Bhikshuni Thubten Chödron, a longtime Western teacher who runs Shavasti Abbey. She went up to His Holiness and requested some help. We have this great teaching, Lam Rim teachings, which are stages of the path to awakening, and different lineages, even within Tibetan Buddhism, have their version of it. Essentially, the Lam Rim, these stages of the path, is a very clear, organized structure of, everything from how to set up an altar to how to achieve enlightenment. It's just this. This teaching goes into this category. This teaching goes in this category. It's very structured. It's a whole outline of the path, and it's incredible in terms of anyone who's done any study in Buddhism. You might see this sutra or that teaching or this lineage and this, and it's really easy to get lost. And so Lam Rim teachings are ones that were just very clear and organized, and takes you through different what they call scopes of motivation. So someone might be on a path, just like in a Pali canon, to be an arhat. Someone might be on a bodhisattva path. Someone might be in this path of a Vajrayana. And it's just all put together. It's very nicely done. And, Westerners, as she pointed out, she started in the 1970s. And I know when I started, which was much later than that, you're kind of given this book, and this is all you need. This is it. Whole thing, stage of path to enlightenment. And the problem is that it's written in a Tibetan cultural mindset, and we're not Tibetan. And so some of these topics, are hard to grasp, didn't really mesh very well, and we'd struggle with things. Westerners, tend to think about things like, we have a soul. They don't really think like that. We have a continuum of consciousness. Things that were often just taken for granted. Of course, you have multiple lives, rebirth, no big deal. And we're like, what are you, nuts? Your body dies, everything goes. And so we have a Christian sort of mentality that we're brought up in. Even if we're Christian, I mean, so much of the culture that we're brought into is that way of thinking, what we call sort of a God's eye view. And so there were these things that just didn't mesh very well, and it was challenging for a lot of people. And so she requested with His Holiness, can we see how to bridge this a little bit? What if you're a Westerner and you don't know or believe or anything about reincarnation or these things that you're teaching or how these concepts come together? How can we approach this in a way that the Buddha taught? So the Buddha taught to the mind stream of the people he was teaching to. So that's why we have so many different lineages. This teaching, would be appropriate for you. This teaching would be appropriate for you. Buddha didn't always just teach about enlightenment either. Couples having some struggles, he kind of taught them how to be, get along better. He wasn't teaching about enlightenment. And so we have all these skillful methods that have been cultivated, and then as it went to different cultures, it got assimilated within those cultures. So you've got Tibetan Buddhism, very different than Japanese Zen type Buddhism, right? Very different. This is a toned down altar, by the way, from a Tibetan perspective, and it still looks a little busy, maybe, but a Zen one would be really clear, sparse, but so exquisite. And so you're going to find in the Chinese tradition a little different, the Sri Lanka, and the essence of Buddhism, the methods that were developed within those traditions met those people within their culture. And then great practitioners cultivated these methods. They gave commentaries and they taught these methods to help people achieve awakening, liberation. And so that's important to bear in mind as we here in the West. It's I don't need to be Tibetan. I don't need to be Chinese. I'm coming to this with some conditioning. And how are these methods going to be productive for me so that I can transform from a lot of my mentally afflicted states to some states that are much more resilient, capable, and able to exist in this world in a more meaningful way. And so this development, initially there's just a lot of adapting everything, just sort of adopting the other culture. And here was the approach: can we take this modern approach, sort of scientific mind that we have, and how do we do that? And so His Holiness was perfect for that. He's like, absolutely. And he's very scientific. And so they sat down. That was in 1993. They started this thing. And he wanted something that is called sort of pre-Lam Rim, right? We're not ready for Lam Rim. We want to see if we can get some foundations and see if this makes sense for us, something we want to look at. But he also wanted it to be really uncovering the essence of the teachings, right? The essence of the teachings. Why do we do this? And can it include some relational aspects, even different traditions? It's not just one view. And so they began this journey of going to sort of bridge this culture. And he also didn't want to just be Western. He wanted to be expansive, universal, in a way that can be more accessible to more people, in a way that makes sense to them. It's going to meet them where they're at. Big vision. And so that went from one book. It's now 4 volumes. Each volume is, and a couple of decades worth of work. And she actually, Bhikshuni, Thubten Chödron, would travel and go to Thailand and ask these questions with the teachers in that tradition. She'd go to Taiwan and she would break this down. She'd visit His Holiness. His Holiness would meet with different geshes and they'd fine tune these questions and try to come up with responses. I mean, incredible amount of work and effort over decades. And it's available to us in English now. And so I thought, what a wonderful opportunity for us to take some time to really get into the essence of Buddhist teachings, and with the sage advice of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, the respected teachers of our traditions and other traditions, and then put together by someone like Bhikshuni Thubten Chödron, a Western nun who used to be a school teacher. So this is pretty good. Those of you that have been with us for a while, we've gone through Lam Rim a few times, and I've always tried to make it practical for us, but this will be so much better. So having said that, we are beginning with the first volume, which is Approaching Buddhism. And I had this vision that I was going to take this big book, I was going to scan the section, take key points out, put a few bullets on, put it on PowerPoint, we'll talk about it. Yeah, it's funny when you think about things like that. I'm reading the first section and I'm copying that, I'm copying the whole text. It's very pithy, very dead on. And so this first section that we're going to unpack today is really just a Buddhist perspective, just, what's core. And so in this first section of the first volume is going to be, this introduction, but then we'll start unpacking, the different sort of Buddhism and different theologies and different things of that, and the middle way and so forth. But this is a very short section and it's very pithy, and I thought I have it on Kindle, so I can just pop it up. So exploring Buddhism, after all that's said and done, where it says, okay, we're going to meet people where they're at, we're going to share all this, he just goes right into just a statement. A spiritual path is essential to human life, period. I mean, that's a fact, that's a statement. That's not, let's explore this. It's a spiritual path is essential to human life. And that bears some exploration right there. It's interesting, just the other day, someone shared a video on neuroscience, and it's the neuroscience of spirituality. And Lisa Miller, I think's her name, Dr. Lisa Miller, basically demonstrating the effects on the brain of people with sustained spiritual practice. Didn't matter what spiritual tradition, just a spiritual practice, and how that affects the brain, how it reduces everything from suicide, increases resiliency, well-being, meaning and purpose in life, and all of that. So it's funny, this was written before that was done, and here we have just mass studies on what happens to the brain with a sustained spiritual practice. And again, it doesn't matter which one that she was pointing out. And so he starts with it. I mean, just right off the bat, a spiritual path is essential to human life. And there's lots to talk about what that means to be spiritual, but I'll go on a little bit more. Although advances in medicine, science, and technology have done much to improve the quality of human life, they have not been able to free us from all suffering and bring us secure and lasting happiness. Right? We can have a lot of good stuff. We can have temperature-controlled beds now. You can have climate-controlled everything. I mean, somebody had like air conditioning, I know in the seats, but I don't know yeah, that was you. I thought, yeah. You can have air-conditioned seats in the truck, man. And we can still be pretty unhappy, can't we? But you can still suffer quite a bit. As a matter of fact, once you've had one of those trucks, then try not to have the air-conditioned seats in the truck. Up here, of course, heated seats in the mountains, like, wow, that was a big thing for a long time. And so he's making a point here that the technology, the advances that we can make mechanically and physically and all that cannot remove our suffering. Right? Matter of fact, I think he's going to make a point. In fact, in many cases, they've brought about new problems that we did not face in the past, such as environmental pollution and the threat of nuclear war. Therefore, external improvements in our world are not sufficient to bring happiness and peace, the happiness and peace that we all desire. For this, internal transformation through spiritual development is essential. For this transformation to occur, we need to follow a spiritual path. So this is, an important, it's not something you just gloss over. Yeah, we can say, of course, those things don't make us happy. We kind of think they do, don't we? Yeah. I mean, anybody have like a really good vacuum? Man, try going back after that. And just this, if only, boy, if I had that, and then we get that. And we can intellectually really go about thinking, yeah, obviously we don't need all that stuff, and it's complicated. And we start thumbing through, the ads. What else can I do? And what else can be better? And what if I was a little healthier? And what if I ate this? And they have this available. And so whether we may know it intellectually or not, we may notice that we are constantly drawn to improving the external environment as though that's going to provide us the happiness that we seek. And we can actually have a pretty wonderful external environment, can't we? And then something's missing, or I get, something else, or I used to love telling people, maybe I still do, we'll see. Hey, we're in Carbondale, Colorado. This is a nice place, Carbondale, Colorado. Those of you online, I know some of you are in different places here, right? Gunnison, some other place. Yeah, we have people from all over the U.S. up here. But a lot of people, I mean, it costs a lot of money to live here too. It's very nice. People like coming here. And then we could be sitting there and I could just talk about, my friend was just on the beach in Kauai. Man, you should have seen the pictures. He's just hanging out there with his wife. The water's so clear. Or you love looking at those fish, right? When you can just see the water and, the temperature there. Like you don't even need a jacket. You can be in shorts and flip-flops all the time. I mean, just have patios. It's pretty nice to be in Hawaii. And we could be sitting here in Carbondale, Colorado going, man, I wish I was in Hawaii. Pretty quick. And you can see on the mind, whoa, what would that be like? Sorry if I just created desire for anyone out there. But we illustrate a point is we can have things that are so much better than we used to have and then not even appreciate what we do have. A lot can happen. And that's just not going to provide us the lasting happiness we have. As a matter of fact, it's going to create a lot of mental and emotional afflictions. Because what do we stress and worry about in our lives? Our house, our environment, our car, our jobs. The very things that we are seeking to give us the well-being that we want are actually the things that we stress and worry about the most. And a friend just come back from Hawaii, by the way. 2 days, I mean, he, 1 day back at work, he was just stressed. And not even able to enjoy that he just had this great vacation because of what was going on at work, and then fearing not having a job and those things. And so His Holiness making a point here that we don't want to just brush off. We want to notice how much of my life am I trying to get that to make me happy. But he's saying we really need spiritual development. We need an internal transformation. Buddhism technically means sort of an insider. I'm an insider. I'm working on the inside. And so he said we need to follow a spiritual path. He didn't say you need to be a Buddhist. You can follow a spiritual path. And spiritual practice involves transforming our mind. Although our body is important, satisfying it does not bring lasting happiness. We must look inside ourselves, examining our attitudes and emotions to understand how profoundly they influence and shape our experiences. And this is just so key. If we recognize how, if I shift how I attend to an event, a moment, an experience, how my experience will change. Right? How my experience will change. And, if I'm having even what I focus on, what I attend to becomes my reality. We talk about that a lot. What I'm focused on, I'm worried about this. That becomes my whole thing here. And it could be a fear, it could be a worry. And if I were to approach that differently, like for example, someone the other day, yesterday, she was, I think it was a telescope or something. She was looking at the universe, and then she was thinking about, we have billions of universes, and there's all these universes. Where am I in this? And then she was thinking, how big are my problems? She went from being really upset to, how big are my problems? The analogy I know all of you that have been around me for a while, I use all the time is, the attitude of, when you're stuck in traffic, people are in your way. Right? It's frustrating. But you are traffic. You're not stuck in it. What a different perspective, right? I'm not stuck in traffic. I am traffic. And we're all trying to get somewhere. And hopefully we can get there safely. And what's difficult about being stuck in traffic? You're seated in a car, some people with air-conditioned seats. And, you got a podcast or a radio. It's, wow, I get a chance to kick back in the car, listen to some music or a podcast, turn the air conditioning on. It's rough, suffering. People are in my way. What's the difference between waiting for something? People don't like to wait, right? Anybody like to wait? I mean, my life's on hold until this thing happens. Go wait. Be an extra half hour. Airplanes, man. Oh, flight's delayed. It's going to be a couple hours. Worst thing ever. I have to sit down and drink a latte. Maybe I will get that dessert. I'm just going to put it off till later. And yet, like a 2-hour delay can be immensely, just horrific thing. And what's the difference between waiting and taking some time to relax and enjoy a latte? Is my mental attitude around it. I mean, a lot of us, I speak for myself, I'd love to have some time to just relax, full life, lots of things to do. Wouldn't it be nice to just relax? Somebody tells you got 15 minutes and I'm waiting instead of relaxing. They just gave me 15 minutes. So just the perspective shift changes my experience, right? And, on a plane, you know what? Fix the plane, man. I'll wait. Actually, let's not wait. Let's have a latte. And live until I get on the plane. But, and then, how many times I'm going to be late, I'm going to miss that connection, this kind of thing. It's just, we can get pretty caught up in that. And yet, here we are today. Did you live through it? Yeah. Anybody been late? Anybody been, missed a flight connection? Yeah. And how big a deal is that today? Right? Don't even think about it. I brought it up. And then it'll happen, and then it's a big deal. And then it's over, and somehow you made it to your place, whether you made your connection or not, had to stay an extra night, whatever, you got here. And here we are. And yet, when it happens again, we'll forget that I lived through that. I had to drink a few extra coffees. You can tell I enjoy lattes. And we're okay, right? Matter of fact, all of us have actually lived through every single challenge we've ever had in our lives. It's a pretty good success rate, 100%. So why do I lose that perspective? Why do I get microscopically sucked into an event and a thing in a moment? So we have this conditioning and we forget. And His Holiness is pointing out right here, the mind is what's creating the suffering, not the event. Not sitting in your car in traffic. Generally, that's not painful unless you have to go to the bathroom. It could be a little painful then, right? But in general, when we think about our mental emotional suffering, how much of that is the event and how much of that is this shouldn't be happening, this is not fair, that's not right, then people are in my way, blah, blah, and forget that you're perfectly okay. As a matter of fact, you're probably in a better situation than most of humanity, generally speaking. And you might even have a pretty big thread count on your sheets, right? And not happy. So nothing to gloss over here. He's going like, let's look at the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the mind. So in Buddhism, mind is always going to be primary. Mind's going to be primary. In Buddhism, technically, the body is very secondary. The body arose, and we'll unpack those later. But that there's a consciousness that is present, aware, existing moment to moment, and and from life to life, a body will take shape, but that there is a stream of consciousness, not a soul, not something stagnant, not something that goes into each body, but rather a stream of, like a river, stream of consciousness that just flows. And we're different today than we were yesterday. Now we're always becoming. My body's not the same, my mind's not the same. I have some new info. So the stream of consciousness, moment to moment, and things are rising in dependence upon, all these conditions. And that mind is primary. Now, you don't have to believe in that. As a matter of fact, if you don't, hang on to not believing in that. The point in Buddhism is to analyze. Something's true or it's not true. It's relevant or it's not. And to explore. So the Buddha is always saying, test these things out. See if they're true. See if they're true. And at the core of Buddhism is a very simple thing. Our freedom, our liberation, what people call full enlightenment, is nothing other than knowing who you are and how things are accurately. That the main problem is that we identify me and mine with that which is not me and mine. I identify with my feelings, my thoughts. I have this sort of personality that I can tell you all about. Anybody ever have to write a little biography or something? I remember when Match.com came out, I went on that. You gotta tell people who you are. I was pretty wonderful, just want to let you know. I was patient, and this and that. Forget exactly what I wrote, but I was pretty open-minded, wise, discerning, caring person. I didn't do the long walks on the beach thing. That's a little too corny. But I have an idea about myself, right? No, I didn't write, well, I'm also insecure and get frustrated sometimes and a little scared. Write that stuff. But we write, but we do have sort of a sense of ourselves, right? Of who we are. I'm a morning person, I'm a night person, I'm, a funny person, or I'm not very funny, or I'm a people person, all that. I'm a patient person, not a patient person. And we have some ideas like that. And then I would question, is any of that true? A lot of people tell me, man, I'm a very impatient person. Have you ever been patient? Yeah, I've been patient before. Well, then maybe sometimes you're patient. Are you an impatient person or are you a patient person? Are you a human being who can get impatient and at other times be patient? People person? Not a people person. Are you ever comfortable with people, close friends, stuff like that? Oh, so maybe sometimes a people person. Maybe not so much in these other situations. In other words, if we start looking at how we even think of ourselves, we're going to find a lot of misperception there. I'm incapable of doing this and that. I used to, I had a speech impediment when I was younger. I had speech therapy. I still have to work at it a little bit. And I don't hear tones really well. So learning a different language, like I'm not very good with languages. You put me in a Buddhist monastery in India where everybody speaks Tibetan, you'd be amazed how quickly I come up with where's the bathroom, need some food, when's dinner, the important stuff right off the bat. And someone who couldn't be good with the language suddenly, is saying things like, so when we approach this and mind and things of these natures, it's good to approach it with some good, healthy discernment. Check them out, true, not true. I don't think it's healthy to adopt a view simply because, well, it's in the book. So-and-so said, must be. That's not how the Buddha taught. And it doesn't work very well to engage in a path, or in any path. You can only engage in a path that requires effort if you have a faith in it, and a faith that's born of discernment, born of experience, born of trial and error, testing. And so, as we approach this, my encouragement is that you test, that you check, it makes sense, doesn't make sense, question things, and challenge them. That's how we get some realization. So His Holiness is going right here with mind. Okay, mind's the issue. And he's going to quote the Buddha here. Oops, that's not the one. There we go. And this is out of the Pali Canon. The world is led by mind and drawn along by mind. All phenomena are controlled by one phenomenon, mind. And then he's going to explain. The mind includes not only our intellect, and certainly not, he's not talking about the brain. He's talking about the mind. So, brain has correlates with the mind. You can think things will happen in the brain. There's, some discussion around, is the mind an emergent property of the brain? Or from this perspective, it's saying that the mind, you can think thoughts and it affects the brain, but use it very differently here. So the mind includes not only our intellect, but also all our cognitions, emotions, and other mental factors. The Sanskrit word for mind, chitta, can also be translated as heart. So in Chinese and Tibetan, when they're talking about mind, they're always pointing to their heart. It refers to all our consciousnesses, sensory and mental, and to the variety of mental states we experience, right? Mental and emotional states. By subduing the afflicted aspects of our mind, our experience of the world is transformed. Whereas if we seek to change only the external environment and the people in it, we continually meet with frustration and disappointment because we cannot control the external world. It is only by developing the great potential of our mind, heart, that we are able to find a way out of our suffering and truly benefit others as well. So, that's what we were just kind of, if I shift how I'm attending to something, you're going to see I have a different experience. But the thing here is not to make up stuff, right? Not Pollyanna, not think good thoughts. Live in reality. So that's the core, live in reality. And the basic principle here is the more I live in reality, the more I understand myself and my experience and how things work, the less room there is for mental afflictions, and that all mental afflictions, mental emotional afflictions, arise from misperception, from misunderstanding, from something that's not true. So ultimately, it's all about what's true. That's what the Buddha said, what's true, what's true. Are you a patient person or are you an impatient person? Are you a human being that's impatient sometimes, patient other times? Or has a propensity to be impatient? Just being more accurate, That's a good way. And the liberation is actually truth. So in Buddhism, therefore, the obstacles that we aim to eliminate are not external, but are afflictive mental states, distorted attitudes, and disturbing emotions. The tools we use to counteract them are also mental: compassion, wisdom, and other realistic and beneficial attitudes and emotions that we consciously cultivate. Now, he snuck something in there real quick. Excuse me. He said compassion and wisdom first. So that is the path of awakening. The methods of compassion and wisdom, the union of the two. So the cultivation in this path is always geared towards developing compassion and wisdom. Right? Like two wings of a bird. Like you're not going to make it with just one. You need both. And then he threw in the other pieces that will get you to those. Oops. Hit the wrong button there. Okay. Yeah, I think there's just a little bit more. So The Buddha's teachings, or Buddha Dharma, what is commonly known as Buddhism, helps us to differentiate realistic and beneficial attitudes, views, and emotions that accord with the way things are. So that's really the methods here. That is, how are we going to do things that are realistic, that are beneficial, that are helpful? The teachings also give us instructions regarding what to practice and what to abandon on the spiritual path. It's always presented that way. Here's what to practice, here's what to stop doing. The Buddha taught from his own experience, and we are free to accept or reject his teachings using valid reasons as well as our own experience as criteria. And so, yeah, just a little technical point. So here he talks about Buddha's teachings are Buddha Dharma. And Dharma, you'll hear Dharma all the time. This is the way of compassion, Dharma center. And so Dharma generally means, ultimately, it just means truth. So there's lots of Dharma, and there's Dharma teachings within other traditions. And so Buddha Dharma, they just put that together, the Buddha Dharma. And but ultimately, Dharma is Dharma. So you can get realized and find the truth without being a Buddhist. Okay. The Buddha Dharma are the methods the Buddha taught to do that thing. But there's no thing that this is the only way. So, well, here's these methods, the Buddha Dharma, and that's what is holiness, and that's what that's what they've been trained in, that's what they know how to do, and then here is an available path for you. It might work for you. Take a look, see if it's a fit. So, just pausing there for a moment. I want to see if anyone had any thoughts or questions, either online or physically here, before I go on a whole nother tangent. And if you're online, yeah, just you can unmute, say something.
So, John, in terms of the Dharma and the meaning of Dharma, so in other words, there's many types of Dharma in the world. So there's the Dharma of Christ, the Dharma of Muhammad, the Dharma of Confucius, Lao Tzu. All of those can be considered Dharma, ways of living.
Anything that can point to the truth, right? So Dharma is about leading to the truth. So, so within those traditions, all the ones you named, I think there's going to be aspects that will teach greater realization, greater understanding, and greater truth. But you can also find Dharma in just our culture. One of my favorite, most powerful teachings I got from my Little League coach. It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. And what he was saying, again, is what's going to really cultivate some well-being in my life is how I play the game, not whether I win or lose, right? And so not the external goal, but the internal motivation, the ethics, and the values. And so there's a Dharma of Little League. And so Dharma can come in many forms, not just in religious things. And that's where I like to kind of pinpoint back to what's it mean to be spiritual? If a spiritual path or a spiritual life is necessary, what's it mean to be spiritual? I mean, you hear a lot of people say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Some people say, I'm religious and very spiritual. But if this neuroscience is saying, some of the consistent spiritual practice, has all of this, I think it's strengthening of the cortex across all the linkages. What's it mean to be spiritual? Good thing to think about. What's it mean when people say it? So I'll just throw out one thing because I do think about this sometimes. And I have this great visual from a teaching, a recovery teaching, where they have this big circle, God, good, the universe, everything wonderful. a line, and then I'm over here, me. Like, here's everything good. Here's line, me. And the line, they wrote ego, right? That's what's separating me from being connected. So I started thinking about spirituality as being connected, not separate from. And I think when I've talked to, and I've investigated this amongst other traditions, people I talk to, it seems that everything, when people are talking about spirituality and so forth, is a lessening of a sense of self as being independent from, this the experience that we're having, and connected. So spiritual, sort of connected versus independent, separate from. And then for me, when I define spirituality in a sense, what's that look like? It's me making a conscious choice to live in reality, which is actually very scientific in my mind, which is everything I have in my life is dependent upon others, right? And my clothing, my words, the building we're in, I'm interconnected with everyone and everything at all times. And I can have nothing that's independently mine, and not even my body. Parents gave me that. Thank you. And so when they say in a spiritual life is necessary, living in reality is necessary for peace of mind, for well-being, for understanding, because that's how I am. And when I am separate from that, independent, then this is my stuff and that's your stuff, and you're in my way. And, and it's me and you you benefit me or you don't. And, we're going to have a lot of conflict, a lot of suffering, a lot of stress. When I understand interdependence and the way things arise, independence upon causes and conditions, and there's nothing woo about that. It's just science. It's how things are. Then it's a much more accurate way of living, which reduces suffering right off the bat. People are not in my way. I am traffic as well. It's just accurate. We're all trying to get somewhere. So when we go back to this idea of a spiritual life is necessary, an understanding of our interconnectedness, or an understanding of reality, an understanding of our dependency upon all others. Well, I think that's going to be helpful to not suffer so much. And when I get more independent, separate from them, me, labels, those kinds of people, that kind of thing, and slap these labels on people as though that's how they are. Boy, that's first off inaccurate, and second off going to create a lot of suffering and limitations on how I interact with others, because that's how they are being in that moment. And so this will go basically through all of this is going to be leading us to how we can do that more accurately. But he's making a point. This is all going to be an inside job. So this is just, okay, here's the point. And that's the introduction. You can see where I couldn't really do bullet points on that. It was like very pithy. All right, well, we're at the hour, so anyone has any thoughts, questions, curiosities, jokes, I would be happy to hear that.
John, you said something about that we need to be not independent, but dependent?
Interdependent.
On others?
Yeah, you are. It's not that you need to be, you actually are. You need to realize you are. What is it that isn't dependent upon others in your life? Your glasses, your health, your oxygen, your clothing, your food, your education, your words, your clothes, the roads we drive on, everything, is from others.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But being too dependent on somebody can be smothering too, right?
Well, that's a different thing. So you're talking about like being like codependent or dependent on that. So we're just understanding that in the healthiest situations with healthy people in our lives and healthy things, we're still dependent upon, I mean, we're dependent that, the signals work at the stoplight. We're dependent upon those things. Now we can, what he's saying is to be codependent on someone would be exaggerating your need for a person, exaggerating the dependency of the situation in a way that's not healthy nor accurate, and that I couldn't live without someone, or those kinds of things that get extreme. And so those are going to be mentally afflicted states that are based on an attachment and a belief system that doesn't hold up. So it's always going to cut through what's actually true. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't want to use next time in traffic, not saying I'm in traffic, saying I am traffic.
Yeah. I try to say it a lot because I've had people years from now will say to me, man, I love just being traffic.
And I become traffic.
Yeah, I am traffic. Yeah. All my friends in New York use that a lot. We are traffic. Yeah. We're all trying to get somewhere. Yeah. All right, well, let's just take a moment for our dedication. And just taking a moment to recognize what a gift it is to come together to support each other in cultivating health and well-being, compassion, loving kindness, to improve the quality of our lives, to be able to help others. Gift to have people that worked so long and hard to provide these teachings for us. Of all those over centuries that have refined these teachings. All of this to come together to help us find our way in this precious life that we have. So let us dedicate this time and energy, this merit and wisdom for the benefit of all beings and for our own continued growth. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. All right, well, thank you all so much. Those of you online, I didn't get to see you all because I've been pinned, but I'll zoom through. Lots of love to you all. Please be well, take good care of yourselves, and good care of those around you. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Happy
John.
grandfathering.
Yeah, I became a
Congratulations.
grandfather for the third time. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So did she became a grandma. Yeah, okay.
My first grandson.
All right. Okay. Bye bye, everyone.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu